interesting times. Today's stories. An Indonesian court rejects a bid to overturn President Widodo's victory. Biden and Harris slam U.S. President Donald Trump's tax bill during the Democratic debate. The U.S. Congress approves $4.6 billion in emergency border funding. The Mauritanian presidential winner hails the start of democratic pluralism. A Quebec hog farmer reacts following China's ban on Canadian meat. An Australian student is feared detained in North Korea. Filipino Heritage Month continues in Alberta. For EBC Sports, the Vancouver Whitecaps play against the Colorado Rapids at the MLS. And the annual Taste of Little Italy spices up summer in Toronto. This is Eagle News broadcasting from our Vancouver studio in Canada, bringing you stories from around the globe. I am Archie Rose Natividad Yi. Indonesia's constitutional court has rejected a bid to overturn President Joko Widodo's re-election victory, and the court has dismissed his defeated challenger's claims of voter fraud. The court says ex-General Prabowo Subianto did not prove he lost the April vote because of widespread cheating and voter fraud. Those allegations sparked deadly rioting in the capital of the world's third biggest democracy. Chief Justice Anwar Usman called Subianto's case legally groundless. President Joko Widodo says the ruling paves the way for him and his vice presidential running mate, Maruf Amin, to be inaugurated later this year.
Saya dan Pak Kiai Haji Maruf Amin berjanji akan menjadi presiden dan wakil presiden bagi seluruh rakyat Indonesia tanpa kecuali.
The court proceedings lasted more than 9 hours. Judges described many of the allegations, including vote buying and that biased civil servants favored Widodo, as baseless. The court questioned the quality of the evidence and credibility of witnesses. It also says voter fraud claims are the responsibility of Indonesia's elections agency and beyond its jurisdiction. Widodo says despite the court case, he believes his opponent has the interests of Indonesia in his heart.
Saya meyakini kebesaran hati dan kenegarawanan dari sahabat baik saya, Bapak Prabowo Subianto dan Bapak Sandiaga Uno. Beliau berdua memiliki visi yang sama dalam membangun Indonesia ke depan.
After the ruling, Subianto said he would consider his options.
Keputusan tersebut sangat mengecewakan bagi kami dan para pendukung Prabowo Sandi. Namun, sesuai kesepakatan kami akan tetap patuh dan mengikuti jalur konstitusi kita, yaitu Undang-Undang Dasar Republik Indonesia 1945 dan sistem perundang-undangan yang berlaku di negara kita.
Subianto called on his supporters to respect the law.
Saya minta seluruh pendukung Prabowo Sandi, mari kita tidak berkecil hati. Kita tetap tegar, kita tetap tenang, tetap penuh dengan cita-cita mulia, tapi selalu dalam kerangka damai, anti kekerasan, dan setia kepada konstitusi kita.
Subianto sought to overturn the official results that declared Widodo the winner. Widodo captured 55.5% of votes against Subianto's 44.5%. Democratic candidates in the 2020 U.S. presidential race have presented plans to tackle economic issues, including income inequality and tax reform. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden took the opportunity to slam Donald Trump's tax bill. Biden says Trump has made things worse.
Donald Trump has put us in a horrible situation. We do have enormous income inequality. And the one thing I agree on is we can make massive cuts in the $1.6 trillion in tax loopholes out there. And I would be going about eliminating Donald Trump's tax cuts for the wealthy.
When asked by moderator Savannah Guthrie how the Democrats will pay for their economic proposals, Harris replied that same question should have been asked of Trump.
Do you think that Democrats have a responsibility to explain how they will pay for every proposal they make along those lines?
Well, let me tell you something. I hear that question, but where was that question when the Republicans and Donald Trump passed a tax bill that benefits the top 1% and the biggest corporations in this country, contributing at least $1 trillion to the debt of America, which middle-class families will pay for one way or another?
Harris says her plans for taxation will help the middle class.
I am proposing that we change the tax code so for every family that is making less than $100,000 a year, they will receive a tax credit that they can collect up to $500 a month, which will make all the difference between those families being able to get through the end of the month with dignity and with support or not. And on day one, I will repeal that tax bill that benefits the top 1% and the biggest corporations of America.
Democratic presidential candidate Kirsten Gillibrand told the debate she's not anti-capitalist, adding the problem in America is greed.
There's a big difference between capitalism on the one hand and greed on the other. And so all the things that we're trying to change is when companies care more about profits when they do about people. So if you're talking about ending gun violence, it's the greed of the NRA and the gun manufacturers that make any progress impossible. It's the greed of the insurance companies and the drug companies when we want to try to get health care as a right and not a privilege. So there need not be disagreement in the party because in truth, we want healthy capitalism. We don't want corrupted capitalism.
Thank you. I want to be fair to all the candidates.
U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has bowed to pressure from President Donald Trump's Republicans as Congress approved $4.6 billion in emergency aid. The money will be used to ease a swelling migrant crisis on the nation's southern border. One day after the Senate passed the administration-backed measure, the House of Representatives followed suit with a bipartisan vote of 305 to 102 that sends the bill to the president's desk. The emergency money provides a much-needed financial injection to facilities along the U.S.-Mexico border. There have been reports of migrant children living in squalid conditions, sometimes with no soap, toothpaste, or showers, little adult supervision, and not enough food. The money will go to agencies like the Department of Homeland Security and the Health and Human Services Department. They have been overwhelmed by an influx of migrants, mostly from Central America. The two U.S. political parties had been battling over border funding for months. In the most recent squabble, Pelosi and Democrats had wanted additional language that would ensure better protection of migrant children. They also wanted restrictions on the funding to keep the Trump administration in check. Realizing the Republicans would not move, Pelosi told Democrats before the vote the needs of the children come first. Republicans say the measures include tens of millions of dollars in overtime pay and other wages to personnel at the border. They add the government will also have the authority to deploy military personnel there and investigate human trafficking. Top House Republican Kevin McCarthy says the Democrats' support of the measures show common sense prevailed over partisanship in Congress. The strain on the border has mushroomed into a crisis in recent weeks as migration numbers surged. Emotions ran high this week when a photograph emerged showing the bodies of a Salvadoran man and his infant daughter in the Rio Grande River. They drowned while trying to enter the United States illegally. Democratic support for the measure was not unanimous. 95 Democrats opposed the bill, saying it did not contain enough measures for improving care. Opponents also criticized the bill because it allows the Pentagon to build tent camps for migrant children on military sites. Democratic Congressman Pramila Jayapal says she could not support the bill because it's given more money to the deportation forces of the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency. She adds it allows what she calls a lawless administration to evade basic standards of care for children. The winner of the presidential election in Mauritania has hailed his victory as the beginning of democratic pluralism in the conservative Saharan country. Mohamed Ould Ghazouani, a former general, is a close ally of the outgoing president. Mohamed Ould Abdelaziz stepped down after serving the maximum 2 5-year terms. The election represented Mauritania's first democratic transition of power since independence from France in 1960. However, opposition leaders have accused the authorities of fixing the presidential poll. They say hundreds of people were arrested in a crackdown on protests that followed the June 22nd vote. Following the election, police raided opposition party headquarters and clashed with opposition supporters. Police say they arrested more than 100 foreigners accused of working with domestic opposition parties to destabilize the country through protests. Police have not said how many Mauritanians are in custody. Ghazouani has already received congratulations from countries including former colonial power France, as well as Saudi Arabia, Morocco, and Algeria. He thanked his campaign team and supporters for what he called their self-denial and high sense of duty.
مناسبة لقائي بكم اليوم تتيح لي الفرصة لأتوجه بالتحية إلى كافة شعبنا فردا على ما أظهر من نضج سياسي واهتمام بالشأن العام وتكريس لثقافة التعددية والحوار.
Ghazouani was speaking after the internet was restored following a 3-day communications blackout. Ghazouani's remarks were welcomed by other politicians such as candidate Med Lemini Moulay Zain.
Ce discours, un discours rassembleur, un discours conséquent, un discours qui tourne vers l'avenir et qui crée l'espoir.
Maryam Awufa of the Union for the Republic Party is also hopeful.
ونعرف عنه ذا اللي فات من الخطابات ومن التعهدات عن ما باقي حد من اهل موريتانيا ما هو لا يشوف راسه واحنا متباشرين به ونعرف عنه لا يعود امتداد ذا اللي فتنا حصلنا عليه في العشريه الاخيره عنه لا يعود تكمله ذاك اللي ناقص له يكملوا له خلاه هي.
As the fixed internet in the country was restored, sources say Mauritania's government spokesman stepped down after defending the blackout imposed during post-election unrest. Also gone is the Minister of Culture. He handed in his resignation shortly after he gave a press conference describing the restriction as preventative and promising the internet would be restored as soon as the reasons for its disconnection appear. Neither the minister nor the government provided reasons for his departure. Up next, a Quebec hog farmer reacts following China's ban on Canadian meat. Filipino Heritage Month continues in Alberta. An Australian student is feared detained in North Korea. For EBC Sports, the Vancouver Whitecaps play against the Colorado Rapids at the MLS. These stories and more when Eagle News Canada returns. We will be right back. Welcome back. You are watching Eagle News Canada. Serge Menard, a Quebec hog farmer, worries about his farm's future following China's ban on Canadian meat exports. Since May, the price for a hog has decreased by $30 to $40, and Menard says it won't be long before he makes no profit.
Ce qui est inquiétant, c'est qu'on livre des porcs à tous les jours à l'abattoir. Moi, ce l'abattoir ici est tout près, est à 20 minutes environ. Et je me dis, ils vont faire quoi avec toute cette viande-là qui s'en allait en Chine?
Canada says it is investigating the origin of a tainted pork shipment and bogus documents that prompted China to ban Canadian meat and further strain tense relations. Trade Minister Jim Carr says Canadian officials were cooperating with their Chinese counterparts, but he says they are waiting for proof that there is something wrong with the product and that it originated from Canada. China asked Canada to suspend all meat exports after uncovering 188 false veterinary health certificates attached to a batch of pork, raising concern among livestock breeders. The forgery allegations leveled against Frigo Royal come after relations between the two nations were strained by Canada's arrest of a senior Chinese telecoms executive and China's detention of 2 Canadian nationals in apparent retaliation. Earlier this month, the official Chinese news agency said customs officials in the eastern city of Nanjing had found ractopamine in the Canadian company's recent pork shipments. The feed additive boosts the growth of animals. It is widely used in the United States but banned in the European Union and China. Carr says they are taking the issue of the fake veterinary certificates seriously, adding somebody is trying to use the Canadian brand to move product into the Chinese market. The RCMP has been called in to investigate the case. Menard says exports are the lifeblood of the Quebec hog industry.
Le Québec exporte 2/3 de la viande produite ici. À tous les 3 cochons, on exporte 2. On mange le 3e ici au Québec. Mais ces 2-là doivent s'en aller quelque part. Les États-Unis, beaucoup, mais la Chine aussi, beaucoup.
Menard adds he has been caught off guard by the price drop of pork.
En dépôt à ça. Jamais on n'aurait pensé que le prix aurait chuté aussi vite que ça. On vendait un porc 250 $ au mois de mai. Là, ce matin, il était rendu à 210, 215 pièces. On a perdu 30, 40 pièces par tête. À 215, on est encore à profit. Mais si ça continue à baisser, on va tomber à kiff-kiff avant longtemps, là.
Menard says the additive found in the exported pork hasn't been seen on Quebec farms for a long time.
La ractopamine est un additif alimentaire qu'on ne met plus dans nos moulées depuis déjà plusieurs années. Moi, je l'ai déjà utilisé, c'était permis. Maintenant, on n'a plus le droit, on n'en met pas. Et ça fait plusieurs années qu'on n'en met pas. Je ne comprends pas que la Chine invoque cet élément-là pour dire on ne veut plus de votre viande, il y a de la ractopamine dedans. Je comprends pas. Et en plus, il y a...
Menard says the Chinese ban on Canadian meat has forced him to put some of his plans for his hog operation on hold.
Même nous, on avait d'autres projets, d'autres rénovations à faire cet été, mais on termine celui-là et on arrête ça là. On ne sait pas ce qui s'en vient, on va arrêter ça là, on va être prudent.
Australia says it is urgently seeking clarification on the fate of a citizen feared detained in North Korea. The Department of Foreign Affairs says it has been in contact with the family of a man reported detained in North Korea. Korean language media named him as Alex Sigley. Sigley is one of only a handful of Western students at Kim Il-sung University, where he studies Korean literature. He also runs a company specializing in tours of North Korea and has written articles about Pyongyang's dining scene and other issues for North Korean news and other outlets. His last social media posts came 3 days ago. Australia has no diplomatic mission of its own in Pyongyang and is represented in North Korea by the Swedish embassy. Canberra advises against non-essential travel to North Korea, where several foreigners have been detained in the past. Consular advice recommends Australians stay as short of a time as possible, eliminate unnecessary activities, and review personal security arrangements. In 2016, Otto Warmbier, a University of Virginia student, was imprisoned during a tour of the authoritarian state after being accused of taking down a propaganda poster. Doctors said he suffered severe brain damage while in detention, fell into a coma, and died days after arriving back in the United States in June 2017. He was 22 years old. The vast majority of foreign students in North Korea are Chinese, for whom studying at the university is significantly cheaper than at home. The foreigners have separate classes from domestic students, and fees are in the range of $3,000 a year. They also have their own dormitory, so they have limited contact with local students. In a post in January this year, Sigley described a strong interest in East Asia and socialism, and recounted his first trip to North Korea in 2012. According to his post, Sigley is the son of an Anglo-Australian man and Chinese mother. He previously studied at Fudan University in Shanghai and in South Korea before moving to Pyongyang. Steering clear of politics, Sigley described a life chatting with Chinese exchange students, drinking with Russian students, and playing video games and going to restaurants with students from Canada and Sweden. In an article for The Guardian newspaper published in late March, Sigley said he had nearly unprecedented access to Pyongyang as a long-term foreign resident. He said he was free to wander around the city without anyone accompanying him. He said interaction with locals can be limited at times, but he was able to shop and dine almost anywhere he wanted. Thousands of Filipinos in Edmonton continue to celebrate Filipino Heritage Month. Thomas I. Likeness reports.
About 70,000 Filipinos live in the city of Edmonton, and this two-day event is a chance for them to share their culture and give back to the community. Organizer Tony Santiago says one of the goals is to preserve culture, which he says can be hard to do with third or fourth generation Filipinos.
If you were born here and you were raised here, you went to school here, you have friends who are non-Filipinos, it's more challenging for the parents to preserve the Filipino culture. So I think it's very important that we have an event that will expose them to Filipino culture, aside from what their parents should be doing, which is to teach them the culture at home.
Santiago applauds the move by the Alberta government to include Tagalog in the school curriculum as an optional second language.
Learning Tagalog or Filipino in the public school will help our third and fourth generation Filipinos learn about their language, as well as offer an opportunity for non-Filipinos to learn our language as well.
Scores of young people were in attendance to show off their talents and crafts. One of them, Eva Enriquez, says she and others are learning about their culture through these crafts.
This one's about like life on the beach. So this guy, we'll call him Doughboy or something. He's fishing, and these are boats.
She also showed us an intricate model of the rice terraces.
The rice terraces are actually a famous attraction in the Philippines because they're huge. So we had to layer these cardboards we had to layer the cardboard boards one by one and paint them, and it took forever to drill all the holes.
Also in attendance at the event was Alberta Premier Jason Kenney.
Mabuhay! Thank you so much to all of you.
Kenney paid tribute to the contributions of Filipinos to the province.
Just a great celebration of an amazingly vibrant culture that's done so much to contribute to Alberta.
As well as cultural exhibits and entertainment, there was an abundance of food for people to sample. This showcase of music, arts, and crafts is in its fourth year. In Edmonton, Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News, I'm one with 25.
Now for EBC Sports correspondent Jason Manauas takes us to the Major League Soccer game where the Vancouver Whitecaps plays against the Colorado Rapids. Take a look.
The Vancouver Whitecaps were able to earn a point after coming to a draw against the Colorado Rapids. It was clear early that the surging Rapids were ready to be aggressive against the short-handed Whitecaps. With several players away due to the Gold Cup, including their best defender Daniel Henry, the Rapids were able to take a 2-0 lead. Coach Mark Dos Santos admits that the early part of the game had him on his heels.
When you have to address and assess and make changes like that, when there's a Gold Cup and two of your center backs that have been playing in a back three, being Daniel and Derek, are not there, then you have to make changes. And I think those first 20-25 minutes were difficult for us to adjust.
But despite the poor defense and several missed opportunities, Vancouver was able to cut the lead down to 1 after a Freddie Montero penalty. The energetic start to the second half ultimately led to Jordi Reyna's crowd-pleasing free kick that evened the score 2-2. However, even with the strong effort to tie the game and had the chance to win it, the Whitecaps know they have to play better at home.
But when we're playing at home, we need to go look for the game. And teams like Colorado today, they were waiting for us. And that's when we need to do more. We have to create more chances in the last part of the field. The last pass has to be dangerous enough to put the striker or the winger one-on-one with the goalkeeper or with the defender, and that's where we need to get better.
The Whitecaps now stay stagnant, holding the 9th spot in the Western Conference. And the road to the Canadian Championship will not get any easier, as their next 3 games will be against teams at the top of the standings. From BC Place Stadium in Vancouver, for Eagle News, I'm Jason Manauas, 1 with 25.
Thanks, Jason. Coming up, the annual Taste of Little Italy spices up summer in Toronto. Eagle News Canada will return shortly. This is Eagle News Canada. I am Archie Rose at TV Dad Yi. Summer has finally arrived and Canadians are excited for what it has to offer. And this includes the annual Taste of Little Italy. See why Canadians love this summer street festival. Patricia?
Ciao, buongiorno. We are here today in Toronto, Canada, along College Street, where the Taste of Little Italy is happening, a 3-day festival celebrating Italian culture with the most popular dishes by Toronto's top-rated chefs.
After the long wintry months in Canada, summer has finally come, which means an opportunity to indulge in one of the most popular food festivals in Toronto. College Street, along Bathurst to Shaw Street, is closed to vehicle traffic for pedestrians to enjoy restaurants and street vendors offering free tastings and samples of Italian classic dishes such as pasta, wood-fired pizza, and variety flavors of gelato. The annual Taste of Little Italy includes fun-filled carnival rides, extended patios, live music from local and international artists at different street corners and on the main stage. This year, a new feature adds to the fun: a Learn to Skate Park where children learn to ride scooters and skateboards.
Just the community coming together, and I love it when all the restaurants get to put out their big patios and people literally just like sitting on the sidewalk drinking and eating. It's just really nice to see.
It embraces all people from everywhere, so definitely a good sign of multiculturalism, and I love it though, because it's very beautiful, and I think it's very heartwarming to know that there are places like Toronto that embraces everybody from everywhere.
It's just such a different experience. There's so many different, everywhere you walk, your nose is just going crazy. The food here smells amazing, tastes amazing. The people are so friendly, and it's just a good time, and it's a good vibe to be around for sure.
The Taste of Little Italy is one of this summer's street festivals that brings the neighborhood together to celebrate the diversity and multiculturalism in Canada. A chance indeed to explore and experience authentic Italian cuisine. Arrivederci. For Eagle News, reporting from Toronto, Canada, this is Patricia Gaday, 1 with 25.
Thanks, Patricia. That is this week's Eagle News from Canada. Join us next week for stories that matter to you. Visit our websites at eaglenews.net and eaglenewslive.com. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/EagleNews and on facebook.com/EagleNews. Thank you for watching. I'm Archie Rose Natividad Yi. I'm 1 with 25.